The words gold digger hit like a physical blow as they escaped my future mother-in-law's lips. My hand froze mid-signature, the blank pen hovering over the prenuptial agreement's final page. The mahogany conference table seemed to stretch infinitely between us in their Greenwich Estates library, where leather-bound classics lined walls like silent judges. My fiancé Jordan's reflection caught in the window behind his mother, his gaze fixed firmly on the floor rather than meeting mine. Let me be clear, Victor leaned forward, adjusting his Patek Philippe watch. Jordan is heir to Callaway Industries. The estate, the business, the portfolio, everything we've spent 40 years building. We can't let someone like you walk away with half after a few years of marriage. Someone like me. The teacher. The nobody. The woman supposedly worth nothing. What they couldn't see was the phone in my lap under the table. The screen displayed a banking app with a notification. Callaway mortgage payment received $12,463.27. The very house we sat in, I owned the debt on all of it. My name is Olivia, I'm 32 and a private equity CEO. This is the story of how I taught a wealthy family that true worth can't be measured in dollars. For 2 years I'd been living a partial truth. My mornings volunteering at Parkside Elementary teaching reading to underserved second graders weren't just charity, they were the only part of my life Jordan had bothered to see. Meanwhile, Rodriguez Capital Management, the firm I'd built after graduating from Wharton, managed $340 million in assets from an office I'd never invited him to visit. Not because I was hiding it, but because he'd never once asked what I did with the rest of my day. When Jordan proposed on the beach in Maui 6 months ago, slipping his grandmother's heirloom diamond on my finger, I'd started to tell him about my work. I actually run a. I love how uncomplicated you are, he'd interrupted, kissing my forehead. No corporate ladder climbing, no obsession with money. Just making a difference in kids' lives. I'd let it go. Perhaps that's what he needed, someone he perceived as simple, unthreatening. Someone who made him feel important. I convinced myself it didn't matter. We loved each other. The rest would sort itself out. In retrospect, I should have corrected his assumptions immediately, but part of me was curious to see if he would ever take enough interest in my life to ask the right questions. Then came the phone call last night. Mom wants to discuss a prenup, Jordan had said, his voice apologetic but resigned. Dad's lawyer drafted something. Just sign it, Liv. It doesn't matter. I love you regardless. But it did matter. It mattered that after 2 years together, after planning a wedding for 200 guests, his family still saw me as a predator circling their precious fortune. It mattered that Jordan didn't defend me. It mattered that no one had ever bothered to ask who I really was. I'd called my attorney, Natalie, immediately. They're going to present a prenup tomorrow. Can you meet me there? With pleasure, she'd replied. Should I bring the portfolio listing? Not yet, I'd said. I want to see how far they'll go. Now, sitting in this library surrounded by wealth purchased for status rather than love, I listened as Victor and Penelope Callaway explained why I needed to sign away any claim to their fortune. My gaze fell to page 6, listing property assets including 47 Lakeside Drive, Greenwich, this very house. The house technically owned by Rodriguez Capital Management for the last 23 months. May I speak with my client privately? Natalie requested, her expression perfectly neutral despite knowing exactly what was coming. Is that necessary? Victor frowned. It's a standard prenup. She signs, we move forward. Simple. Mr. Callaway, Ms. Walker is entitled to legal counsel before signing any binding document. Fine. 5 minutes. We'll wait outside. The Callaways filed out, Jordan throwing me an apologetic glance over his shoulder. When the door closed, Natalie turned to me with barely suppressed amusement. Are you going to tell them? She asked quietly. Not yet. I want to see how far they'll go. Olivia, they are offering you nothing. No spousal support, no claim to marital assets acquired during the marriage, no provision for children. I know. And you're still going to sign it. I'm considering it. Natalie shook her head. Your call, but when this blows up, and it will blow up, I want to be there to see their faces. The Callaways returned, Penelope carrying a silver tray with coffee and croissants, as if this were a pleasant social gathering rather than a financial ambush. Have you made your decision? Victor asked, settling back into his throne-like chair. I have a few questions first, I said calmly. Of course, Penelope said with practiced patience. We want you to understand everything. The prenup specifies that I have no claim to any Callaway assets, including this estate. I want to see how far they'll go. Olivia, they are offering you nothing. Is that correct? Correct, Victor confirmed. This property has been in our family for 30 years. It's worth approximately $4.2 million. Obviously, we can't risk losing it in a divorce. Obviously, I agreed. And Callaway Industries, Jordan's inheritance of the company, also protected. The business is worth roughly $87 million. It will pass to Jordan and remain solely his property regardless of marital status. What about the investment portfolio mentioned in Section 7? Penelope smiled. That's our retirement portfolio. $12 million in stocks, bonds, and real estate investments. We've worked very hard for that security, Olivia. You understand why we need to protect it? I do understand. I nodded. One more question. What happens if something changes in your financial situation? If you were to face unexpected difficulties? Victor laughed, a sharp bark of amusement. Unexpected difficulties? The Callaways have been financially sound for 3 generations. We don't have difficulties. But theoretically, I pressed. If circumstances changed, would the prenup change? The prenup is ironclad, Victor said firmly. Nothing changes it. You sign it, you're bound by it forever. That's the point. I see. I looked at Jordan, who was studying his hands. Jordan, is this really what you want? He finally met my eyes. Liv, I love you, but they're my parents. This is their condition for giving us their blessing and paying for the wedding. If we don't sign, they'll cut me off entirely. Cut you off? I repeated. From what exactly? Everything, Penelope interjected. Jordan works for Callaway Industries because we gave him that position. He lives in the penthouse apartment because we purchased it. His car, his country club membership, his lifestyle, all provided by us. If he defies us on this prenup, all of that ends. I turned to Natalie. In your professional opinion, should I sign this? Natalie's eyes gleamed. Oh, I think we should discuss what you'd be signing away first. May I? She opened her briefcase and pulled out a different folder. Mr. and Mrs. Callaway, I've reviewed your prenuptial agreement thoroughly. I've also reviewed my client's financial disclosure, which she's required to provide as part of any prenuptial process. I think you should see it before Miss Walker signs anything. Why? Victor frowned. She's a schoolteacher. We know her finances. Do you? Natalie slid a document across the table. This is Ms. Walker's current net worth statement prepared by her accounting firm last month. Penelope picked it up, her eyes scanning the page. Her face went pale. This can't be right. What? Victor grabbed the paper. What does it say? It says, Penelope whispered, that Olivia is worth $127 million. The room went completely silent. Jordan looked up sharply. What? There must be a mistake, Victor said, but his voice had lost its confidence. It shows ownership of something called Walker Capital Management. That's my private equity firm, I said calmly. I founded it 8 years ago after graduating from Wharton Business School. We specialize in distressed asset acquisition and restructuring. Wharton? Penelope repeated faintly. But you teach 2nd grade. I volunteer at Parkside Elementary 3 mornings a week, I corrected. I teach reading to underserved students. It's important to me to give back to the community where I grew up, but it's not my career. Your career is private equity, Jordan was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Yes. Walker Capital manages approximately $340 million in assets. My personal stake is worth about $127 million. We focus on acquiring undervalued properties and struggling businesses, rehabilitating them, and either operating them long-term or selling them at profit. Victor was still reading the financial statement, his hands shaking slightly. This lists holdings in real estate, corporate debt, and mortgage notes. Yes, we acquired a portfolio of residential mortgage notes 2 years ago from a bank that was liquidating assets. Very good terms. The mortgages were all current, just undervalued in the market. Natalie was smiling now. Mr. Callaway, if you look at page 3, you'll see a detailed list of those mortgage notes. Victor flipped pages. He stopped. His face went grey. What? Penelope grabbed the document. What is it? One of the mortgages, Victor said slowly, is on 47 Lakeside Drive, Greenwich, Connecticut. This address. That's correct, I confirmed. Your mortgage was part of that portfolio acquisition. I've held the note on your estate for 23 months. The silence was deafening. You own our mortgage? Penelope's voice was barely audible. The bank that originally financed your home sold the mortgage to a larger institution, which packaged it with others and sold the package to my firm. So yes, technically, you make your monthly mortgage payments to Walker Capital. You've been paying me for almost 2 years. Jordan was staring at me with his mouth open. Liv, why didn't you tell me? You never asked what I did for a living, I said simply. You assumed I was just a teacher. When I tried to explain my work, you'd smile and change the subject. You preferred the idea of a simple schoolteacher girlfriend. But $127 million. He looked genuinely shocked. I had no idea. Neither did we, Victor said, his commanding tone completely gone. Olivia, Miss Walker, I apologize. We clearly made assumptions. You made assumptions that someone who teaches children and drives a modest car must be poor, I interrupted. You assumed that because I don't wear designer clothes or talk about money, I don't have any. You decided I was marrying up without ever asking about my life. Penelope had tears in her eyes now. We were protecting our son. No, I said firmly. You were protecting your sense of superiority. You wanted me to sign a document declaring myself worthless so you could feel secure in your position above me. Natalie cleared her throat. For the record, my client's prenuptial proposal is in this folder. She slid another document across the table. It's quite different from yours. Victor opened it with trembling hands. This is extremely generous. It's fair, I corrected. It proposes that all assets acquired before marriage remain separate property, mine and Jordan's. Assets acquired during marriage are split equitably based on contribution and circumstance. There are provisions for children, for spousal support if needed, for the business interests of both parties to be protected. Both parties? Jordan repeated. Liv, I don't have business interests. You own everything. You work for Callaway Industries, I pointed out. That's a business interest worth protecting. And Jordan, if we marry, I plan to invest in expanding that business. I've analyzed your family's company. It has incredible potential that's being wasted by conservative management. With proper capital and strategy, Callaway Industries could triple its value in 5 years. Victor was reading my proposed prenup with growing amazement. This section here, you're offering to invest $20 million in Callaway Industries. If we marry, we are family. I invest in family. But the investment would be structured as a business loan with fair terms, keeping the company's ownership within your family while providing capital for growth. Why? Penelope asked, her voice breaking. After how we've treated you, why would you do that? Because I love your son, I said simply. And because I believe in building up the people I care about, not tearing them down. Unlike you, I don't measure people's worth by their bank accounts. Jordan reached for my hand across the table. Liv, I'm so sorry. I should have asked more questions. I should have really listened when you talked about your work. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But you're young and you were raised in an environment that values appearances over substance. You can learn. Can we start over? He asked. Can I actually get to know the real you? I looked at him, really looked at him, trying to see past the embarrassment and shock to the man I'd fallen in love with. Do you love me because you thought I was a simple school teacher who needed rescuing? Or do you love me for who I actually am? I don't know, he admitted. I thought I knew who you were. Now I'm realizing I didn't know anything. That's honest at least, I said. Penelope spoke up, her voice subdued. Olivia, what happens now? With the mortgage, with the wedding, with everything. The mortgage continues as normal, I said. Your payments are current and the terms are fair. As for the wedding, I looked at Jordan. That depends on whether we can build a real relationship based on honesty instead of assumptions. And the prenup? Victor asked quietly. I stood up, gathering my things. Take both prenups. Read them. Think about what they say about how we view each other. My version protects both of us while assuming we are partners building a life together. Your version assumes I'm a threat to be neutralized. We were wrong, Victor said, standing as well. Completely wrong, Olivia. I apologize. We judged you based on superficial observations and our own prejudices. That was inexcusable. It was, I agreed. But Mr. Callaway, you should know. I would have signed your prenup. Everyone stared at me. Even knowing how one-sided it was. Natalie asked. Yes, because I don't need Jordan's money. I never did. I was marrying him for love, not for access to the Callaway fortune. Your prenup would have protected me just as much as it protected you. It would have proven that my motives were pure. But you didn't sign it, Penelope observed. No, because you needed to learn that worth isn't measured in dollars. You needed to understand that the woman you were dismissing as a gold digger actually holds your financial future in her hands. You needed to be humbled. Victor smiled slightly. Mission accomplished. Good. I headed for the door, then turned back. Jordan, you have my number. When you're ready to have an honest conversation about who we both are and what we both want from marriage, call me. Until then, the wedding is postponed. Liv, wait, Jordan started. No. You've spent 2 years dating a version of me you invented in your head. Take some time to decide if you want to know the real me. That's going to require effort, curiosity, and seeing me as an equal rather than a project to rescue. I walked out of the Callaway estate and made my way to where Natalie had parked her car in the circular driveway. We walked together in silence until we reached her BMW, where she waited while I continued to my Tesla parked just behind hers. That was magnificent, Natalie said as we reached my car. Though I still think you should have let me tell them about the other properties. Other properties? Walker Capital owns mortgages on 3 other Greenwich estates, including the one owned by Penelope's sister. You basically hold notes on half their social circle. Natalie had been reviewing the entire portfolio with me last week when we'd been preparing for any potential prenuptial discussions. She'd noted the coincidence then. I laughed. Let's keep that information in reserve. They've had enough shocks for one day. What are you going to do about Jordan? I unlocked my Tesla, the one I usually parked a block away from his apartment so he wouldn't see it. I'm going to wait and see if he's capable of growth. If he can look past his assumptions and actually see me. And if he can't? Then I'll move on. I'm not interested in being someone's charity case or their trophy wife. I'm interested in a partner who values me for who I actually am. My phone buzzed as I drove away. A text from Jordan, I'm an idiot. Can we talk? Really talk? I smiled and typed back, tomorrow, coffee shop on Main Street, 10 a.m. And Jordan, come prepared to ask questions about my actual life, not the life you assumed I had. His response was immediate, I will. I promise. And Liv, I'm sorry for not seeing you, for not asking, for being exactly what my parents raised me to be. Awareness is the first step, I typed. See you tomorrow. I put my phone away and drove toward my actual home, a 3-bedroom condo in Stamford with water views, underground parking, and a home office where I managed a $340 million private equity firm while wearing yoga pants and volunteering at elementary schools. They'd called me a gold digger who brought nothing to the marriage. They hadn't realized I owned the gold mine. And maybe, just maybe, they'd learned something about judging people based on appearances rather than character, about worth versus wealth, about the difference between having money and being valuable. Tomorrow, I'd find out if Jordan had learned the same lesson. And if he hadn't, well, I'd built an empire from nothing once before. I could certainly find a partner who valued me for more than my bank account, or lack thereof. Either way, I'd be fine. I'd always been fine. As it turned out, Jordan did learn. 6 months after our confrontation in the library, we were married in a simple ceremony on the beach. Victor and Penelope attended, humbled but grateful to be included. Jordan now works alongside me at Walker Capital, learning the business from the ground up while I continue to volunteer at Parkside Elementary 3 mornings a week. We are partners in the truest sense, equals who see and value each other for exactly who we are. They just hadn't bothered to notice.